this satellite image of Veda. You can see the outflow here. Very favorable upper level pattern here, supporting the building of the fade. All just on forever. Good regenerate down the road. It's really still don't know how to happen to ship because you can Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from Internet Partnership Radio with a special tropical video update. I don't know why it's so special. I do them just about every day, but that's what I call it. It's special today for we do have a system in the Atlantic. This is Invest 90L, and certainly a different satellite image from yesterday. Yesterday, if you remember, we had a system off the coast of Central America and Mexico that we were worried, and that I was mentioning, hey, it could develop if it maintains itself, but it's pretty close to the coast. That never developed, but what did at least start to develop was the system that all the models had been hinting on, which is now Invest 90L. They've hinted on some kind of a United States landfall from a tropical system, and there was nothing out there except for an area in the Eastern Pacific, and now we have this area have blown up due to this general area of troughiness and low pressure. So let's actually take a look at the system right now on satellite, and as you can see, it looks like if there is low pressure, it's partially over maybe Belize and the Yucatan, and more lopsided. Conditions are only marginally favorable. However, over the next several days, if this progresses further and further north in a general direction, somewhere in here, which is a pretty wide swath, things could maybe get a little bit more favorable, so we're going to have to keep watching it. No signs of any real low pressure in this area yet, which is good news, but we do have an area of low pressure starting to develop over and near the Yucatan Peninsula, similar to what happened with Cindy last year. Cindy relocated over the Yucatan and was able to re-intensify to a hurricane. In fact, if you look closely, we might have some type of a low pressure center in here developing. So again, just a general area. When you have troughiness and thunderstorms like this, you could get little spins all over. In fact, I've seen spins in organized tropical systems that are not associated with tropical systems. So it could happen. However, let's take a look at the, we've seen some model guidance come out. Now this is the NAM. This is 72 hours, and you can see clearly a tropical system in the Bay of Campeche in the Western Gulf moving, well, looking pretty well organized. I mean, in contrast to what the GFS shows, the NAM shows a much better organized system and has been for days on end, moving generally towards the west-northwest or northwest, and then by 84 hours continuing on more of a, well, I guess that would kind of be more of a northwesterly track towards the Texas coast, and again, looking rather well organized. So this is something the NAM has been picking up on. Not everybody's grabbed onto it yet, and you can see areas of low pressure coming into the Midwest, and a lot of the models hint that this storm will not head directly west, although some do. Again, it's a very large swath, which is very hard to forecast, especially when you don't have a low pressure center yet. So now here's, in contrast, here's the 120-hour GFS, which does show moisture coming in, low pressure pushing it. However, we just don't see the type of system. I mean, if you looked at the NAM, you'd think, my goodness, it's showing a hurricane. If you look at the GFS, you're thinking, oh, showing some thunderstorms, because it's just not as picking up on it as the NAM is. But we'll wait and see if the GFS picks up on it. Either way, it does show an entity in the northern Gulf of Mexico that we need to watch. The GFDL, 126 hours out. Here's the system in the approaching the coast of Mexico, probably near Tampico, and although it takes it up near hurricane intensity, at the end of the loop of 126 hours is only about, say, 30 miles per hour, 1,006 millibars. Nevertheless, it is picking up on it as well, now that it is an Invest. The MM5, very good with tropical cyclone genesis. 120 hours shows a tropical system approaching the northeastern Gulf Coast, has been for days as well. Let's see if the NAM and the MM5 and the Canadian have scored one. It'd be interesting if this all pans out and they were the first to pin it. Speaking of the Canadian, here's the 72-hour Canadian. You can see it does show a system north of the Yucatan Peninsula intensifying. although not that good symmetry as, say, with the NAM shows. So all the models here have been picking up on something. The latest model runs to UKMet. You don't really see it on here, I don't believe, but it takes it kind of like that. Weren't able to get it for this slideshow presentation, but the GFDL meanders near Belize, comes inland, and then continues, as mentioned, near the Mexican coast. You got the two BAMs heading in totally opposite directions. You can make an entire projected path out of what the two BAMs show. One towards middle Mexico, the other towards intercoastal city Louisiana. Those I wouldn't concern myself with. The L-bar has always been screwed up, and unless it's in the deep tropics, then it's a little bit better. However, this shows coming in probably near, say, Cedar Key, maybe a little bit to the north of that, near the Big Bend area. And then, of course, you have the NHC A90AD heading northward. So, in general, if it continued on the same track it would be going, it would be heading towards, southeast Louisiana. I'm just going to say that that's what the movement is going now. Doesn't mean it's going there. But really, we have no reliable model consensus with this Invest whatsoever. I mean, I haven't seen anything other than a general track northward. But is it northeastward? Is it northward? Is it northwestward? Is it westward? Well, that will pretty much, as you can see, be the model spread. Nobody knows. Is the center over the Yucatan? Well, that's where they're putting it right now, as mentioned earlier on the satellite I showed you. So it does look like if there is a center, it would probably not develop until it spins itself over the Gulf. And then what you'd see probably, if conditions become a little bit more favorable, you'd see an area low pressure exit off. As soon as it exits off the coast, you'd see a tremendous burst of deep convection, and you would get yourself probably a tropical depression. So we'll wait and see what happens. Right now, certainly a mess in the Atlantic and over the Bahamas as well. If you live in Bermuda, or if you're traveling in the Atlantic, sailing or anything, just be on the lookout. This large area of messy weather is out here. However, this area may move on to the northeast, and this area may move on to the northwest and become a tropical system. So we'll keep an eye on it. Also notice this low pressure. There it is. There's the low we were tracking yesterday south of Central America. Moving inland. Good thing it is, because it has pretty good organization with it. But other than that, in the Atlantic, there's really nothing to be concerned about. Very nice wave just moved off Africa, and you can see that once we get, say, next month, this time next month, a little bit later, these waves will begin developing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Claudette-type system develop in July. Remember, in 2003, we had Hurricane Claudette in July, became a hurricane barely in the Caribbean, and then did not become a hurricane again until it struck Texas. I believe we could see something like that this July. Eastern Pacific, finally, system out here looking like it has some organization to it, but definitely nothing really organized at this time. I'm Mike Naso from Internet Partnership Radio. I will see you next time. Stay tuned to IPR365.com.